Hi, Polly. It's good to see you.
Oh, it's great to see you too, Linda. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and we are so excited to be with our listeners today. So, welcome back to Seniors Can We Talk with Polly Lemire and Linda Prio. And if you haven't noticed, we do have other episodes on YouTube, so please check out our YouTube channel. And of course, at the end of this video, we have our contact information. But Polly and I were talking the other day, and we got into a conversation about technology. And then Polly said, I think that's a great topic for today. So that's where we're headed, listeners. So grab a chair. Come and join us at the table. Grab your favorite beverage and let's talk about technology. No, wait a minute. Don't stop the video. Well, maybe you don't know how to stop the video because you don't know technology. But we're going to talk about something that's very real. And I want you to know that Polly and I, because of our business models, I'm the podcaster and Polly is the tiny habits coach, that we have had to put our arms around for me, is a cactus. It's embracing technology and not having an IT staff on hand to call when something goes wrong. So, this just yesterday, this happened to me. I've never had this happen before. I turned on my laptop for work and my screen was entirely upside down. Now, I don't care how you do it, but you cannot type in your password upside down. So I thought to myself, I have to solve this problem. I am not at an office where somebody can help me. And so, you know what I did? I picked up my phone. I'm sitting here looking at my desk to pick up my phone. So I picked up my phone and I typed in my HP laptop opening screen is upside down. What do I do? And guess what? It told me exactly what to do and exactly how to fix it. So there,
Technology is wonderful when it works,
yeah, and it's great, but I'll tell you
and it
that.
drives you nuts when it doesn't.
Yeah, I had my granddaughter over and she said, "Nana, let's play that game where I have a cafe and you're ordering food." And so I opened my laptop. I thought it was off, must have been on, and she started typing away. And so that's probably why my orientation was off. But I just want you to know that I gave myself a gold star that day because I figured it out. I used Google and I typed in a question and it came back with an answer. And then I applied what I knew and I fixed it. So I was really proud of myself. So that's one way to embrace technology. But I'll be honest, I'm just not always confident around technology. In some ways, it's kind of a giant to me. It is not what I would say my best skill set. But how about you, Polly, at 83? How comfortable are you with technology?
I have to confess, I have been an addict to gadgets. I had a Palm Pilot before smartphones were even invented, and after retiring for 25 years, in the last in the last couple of months, I just figured out again how to create PowerPoint presentations with Canva, which is
Oh,
a new
yes.
new design approach that I hadn't used before. I have learned so many new things, but I think part of it is I just I love gadgets and I love all the things they can do and I'm just fascinated by them. So in some ways, I'm on the opposite end of the stick.
Well, and so that's good because this is where we talk and this is where you and I come together and somebody might identify with me trying to hug the cactus, which is called technology, and other people are like you, like, oh yeah, the more gadgets the better, and I've always used gadgets or technology and I'm good with that. But I think there's a lot of people in the middle of all of this who are very frustrated with what we have
And
to.
I do have my moments. I do have my moments where I get either frustrated or resentful that somebody is trying to push their technology onto me.
Ooh.
So I'm not 100% perfect on technology.
Well, I have to admit, the first time I met Polly, well, the first time we got together and connected, and we were taking some pictures, and she said, "No, wait a minute, let me do this with my phone, and let me do this with my phone." And I'm like, "Who am I talking to here? This gal is amazing." If I was having a normal conversation with another person of your age, I'm not sure that it would have gone like that. And probably the phone would have gone flying somewhere because she has a different phone brand than I do. So I can't always reach across and grab her phone and figure that out. Nor can she do that with mine, nor can you do that always with your friends. So if you are listening to us today and you're feeling a little overwhelmed, a little frustrated, and wondering what are we talking about here, this kind of relates to me. I just wanted you to know that you're not alone. And the National Council on Aging has recognized that this fear of technology, this frustration, this feeling of being overwhelmed is now called technophobia. And so there's an actual word for this, which made me feel a lot more comfortable. So when I'm having a moment, I can just say I'm having a technophobia moment, and you're just going to have to wait for me to get over this or me to figure this out. So the studies that I looked at, Polly, say that 1 in 3 older adults really have a lot of fear and anxiety around technology. And so I'll share another little story about what happened at my house this morning. We were sent some papers to DocuSign, which means that you're going to do an electronic signature on some documents. And while it all sounds so cool, you get these documents delivered to your inbox and you don't have to go down or go to some place to then review the documents and sign them. You can do them from the in your slippers from your house, which sounds amazing if you're busy running around. But 2 out of 2 people at my house today were a little concerned about their technology skills and whether or not we could actually review the documents and sign them electronically. And you have to know, we were given choices. Do we want to create an account, or do we want to use the password that was supplied? And then where do you write the password so that when you're asked that question, you can just put it down rather than searching through your emails or your text messages? So let's just acknowledge that today we're going to be talking about technology, that it is possible that you are going to get confused by technology. And I am going to be honest that when I get confused, I can get mad, I can get grumpy, I can feel overwhelmed, I can get stressed, and my head and my stomach can get upset. So especially if you're under the gun and you have to get something done and somebody has sent you to the technology to get you know the
Oh, I think definitely
task
sometimes
done.
for all of us, sometimes the whole technology thing is just plain we get resentful that somebody's making us do something their way instead of our way.
Yes, I agree. So, we're talking to seniors here. We are seniors and we're doing our best. Okay. We're not the worst at technology. We're probably not consider even close to the guru category, which is fine with me. But why is it so important, Polly, for us as older adults to really stay engaged and to embrace technology? Why is that so important for us?
I think there's two parts to this. Number
Okay.
one, in today's world, so really, technology is the communication device that the telephone was or that mail was 50 or 100 years ago. I mean, it is the major device for connection, especially when we're living in an urban society or when we're living maybe by ourselves and we don't walk to the store every day and see people. We don't go to the barber shop and visit with people. That technology is so important because it keeps us connected to other people. So I think that's one reason why it's important. And I think the other aspect of it is many times we don't use technology or we resist it because we're becoming, I'm going to use this word on purpose, we're becoming grumpy old ladies.
Ooh.
In other words, we're resenting the new technology. It's like Grandpa probably resented it when his daughter drove home in a Model T Ford instead of using a horse and a carriage.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one of the things we need to do is really be honest with ourselves and say, is part of this just resenting that things are changing?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
things do change, but I think learning step by step, tiny step by tiny step, to do new things. Number one, it's fun. Number two, it just opens up a whole new world of entertainment, but most especially of connection with other people, which is what we all need. There was a study I saw one point. It was a TED Talk, and they were talking about doing a study where they were saying people who lived the longest and lived the healthiest lives, was it because of the medications they were taking? Was it because they exercised? They had the proper diet? There were so many different things that were listed that we would all look at as positive from a physical medical point of view. But the number one thing on the list that predicted longevity and a healthy aging was making connections with people. In other words, the people who would talk to somebody in the elevator, the people who would talk to somebody at the grocery store, the people who would extend themselves out towards others. And when we are deprived of the everyday kind of interactions because of the way things are built. And we tend to, especially nowadays, we could be living in a retirement community or in an apartment, or our kids are working and we're home alone because now we're retired. That ability to make connections is through technology. And I think that's just one of the reasons why it's so important.
Absolutely. Social connections are important. We wouldn't have been able to live through 2020, I'm sorry, not 2025, but the pandemic of 19,
Totally.
20, 21, 22, if we hadn't had the technology in place. My son was stationed overseas. Prior to that, he'd been at a army base, and that's when I learned how to text because that was our only form of communication. We couldn't call, so I had to learn how to text. He already knew. I had to learn it. So I said, "How do I do it?" And the kids showed me how to do it. I learned and practiced. The
I
next
learned about Zoom.
he was overseas, and we had Skype, and we could actually see each other and hear each other. But having out of town family and being able to, or Zoom call or
The Zoom calls, that was the
FaceTime,
big thing
that was a
back in
big
the
thing.
pandemic. Yeah.
We handled a lot of stuff. I think that was sort of like a sink or swim moment for me in technology because we were working remotely, and although we had IT, we had to problem solve ourselves. And actually, I got pretty good at figuring out some stuff. If I just took my time and thought about it, or even asked a question and admitted I didn't know, that somebody could usually talk me through it. But Polly, I was thinking it's not only the social connections, but you can't, what about ordering your prescriptions, your groceries, making an appointment just to get your hair done? You have to get online sometimes, nail appointments, obviously connecting with your friends, social groups. How often are you texting people to get together? Getting your books online or from the library, you have to go online. Paying bills, something as simple as paying bills, to be able to pay bills online or to check your bank
I
account.
have a friend who still doesn't do that.
Yeah. And so at one point, her daughter or son or somebody, or she'll have to pay somebody to get online and put all her bills online so that they can be paid automatically. So somebody's not sitting there writing checks. That is really scary to me in the
Yeah.
work I do with seniors, to think that somebody's writing your checks and you're signing them. Or maybe there isn't that much checks and balances. Making a reservation at a restaurant, booking a flight, checking on your Social Security or your Medicare benefits, all of that is online. So staying connected socially, but also being able to do the things that you're required to do in order to maintain your independence. And so, therefore, we have to acknowledge technophobia and also just realize that we've been given an amazing brain. And every time you and I talk, Polly, you throw out the term neuroplasticity. And I finally had to look it up, but I'm going to let you tell what our listeners what that is.
Yes, I think it's a really exciting thing. It's probably the number one most exciting things of what they have learned about the brain in the past decade or so. And that is we used to think, I think in back in the 50s and 60s, certainly in the even in the 70s, that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That once you get old, that's it. You just can't, they're not going to learn anything. Your brain is diminished and so on and so forth. And what science has found is that actually the brain is plastic. It is not just a permanent piece of cement that always is going to work exactly. It's always building new pathways. And the new pathways are built in different ways. They're built by the thoughts and the patterns that we repeat. And they're also another thing that really creates the new pathways, which I talk a lot about as a tiny habits coach, is the whole idea of when you accomplish something that's new and um, something that you're proud of and that you want to become or to have become a new hate behavior, one of the best ways to make that new neural pathway is to celebrate it, which is why I'm always, whenever I go out to talk to a group, or even I gave to Linda, I gold stars. I gave myself 3 gold stars yesterday because I completed a project on my computer.
Oh, three gold
Um,
stars. That's
and
big.
when I go out to talk with people, often, especially if I'm giving a public presentation, I will bring gold pom-poms with me because that positive feedback is one of the best ways to build one of the new neural pathways in our brains. So if that makes a difference with technology, if we're resenting technology and coming at it from a point of view of negativity and resentment, then yeah, it is going to be harder to learn things. But if we're excited and curious and we're thinking of how learning these new things are going to help us to make better connections, to make life more efficient and easier, the chances are learning those new things are going to be a lot easier. But the brain absolutely can learn new things right up into the day that we graduate.
Yes, yes. And so those pathways are constantly being made. Um, Many of you had heard that I had broken my foot, and immediately you start walking a different way. I learned to walk a different way until my foot was fixed. Then I had to learn to walk the other way. But my brain adapted really quick. And so it doesn't matter if you've had a stroke. It doesn't matter if you've had a medical condition. You can overcome some of those things. Now, a brain injury might be a lot harder, but your brain is a muscle, and it is a machine, and it is an amazing piece of work that you've been given, and everybody has one. And if you don't use it, you lose it. And this is the latest thinking. So
Sometimes, we don't give our brains enough credit. I was talking with Linda earlier. Um, I was recently, oh, I guess last month, I got pretty sick. And I had one of those respiratory virus things. And I'm much, much better now. But one of the ways that I got through it was by doing jigsaw puzzles because you were too miserable to do anything else. I didn't even want to watch TV, but somehow a jigsaw puzzle worked because it engaged my brain. And the brain is such an amazing thing. And if there's any of you who do jigsaw puzzles out there watching us, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But sometimes you'll get to a puzzle like any piece of technology and you think, oh, I can't find, I know there's this piece. I can't find this piece. This is one piece. It's just, I cannot figure it out. And you'll take a break and walk away. And then you come back maybe after lunch or something and you look at that puzzle and suddenly your hand It's like it's somebody else's hand. Your hand reaches out, it picks up a piece. It's the exact piece that you were looking for, and it puts it down exactly where it belongs without you even giving it any thought. I mean, so I think sometimes we forget our brains are just amazing. And they sometimes work when we don't even think they are. Sometimes all we need to do is have patience and just give it a little break, and then suddenly things will click in again. And I think that's very important for learning anything that's new, especially technology.
I totally agree. One of the things that I always do when my technology is not working, and it is something that I frequently say, is just turn it off. Turn it off and let it rest for a little bit. And so when you think about your brain and being overwhelmed, or maybe your response is anxiety to these challenges, is if you just take a break or turn it off, then it can reorganize itself and reset itself, and then it's going
Because
to.
your brain, in many ways, is like a computer. It likes to run on patterns, and it can be working even when you don't. That's why a lot of people get their great ideas in the shower. Your brain's working when you don't even realize it. If you set that intention in place.
Yes. So tiny habits. Do you have like small steps or tiny habits that you put in place? Now, imagine that you're going to learn something new, some new technology, like you said, with your son showing you that program. But when you're going to do that, I know you celebrate you when you get it done, because you said you give yourself 3 gold stars. So that's a really good thing. And I like the
Right.
3 gold stars. But is there anything else that you do, a tiny habit
There's a
or
couple of things that I think have really helped me, especially as far as learning new things and when it comes to technology. And I think the first thing, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier when we were first talking, I love gadgets, I love technology, but there's times when even I get resistant. And it's a lot of times when somebody else is imposing their way of doing things on me. So it's like going to the doctor's office. What is the first thing they do? Before you even get there, they're sending you all these things, and you're supposed to check off all these lists and do all this stuff. And there's part of me, even as technologically capable as I am, I resent the fact that they're making me do this. There's sometimes that I simply am a grumpy old lady resisting the new way of doing things. And I think it's really important for us to sometimes just that first step of recognizing, are we just resisting something that's new because it's new and
yeah.
it's a different way, or somebody else is making us do it their technological way? So for me, the first thing, and that's what happened when I was sick and I had to go to urgent care. First thing they do is send, all this stuff over for me to fill out on my cell phone. And part of me was, ah, grumpy. I was grumpy. But I think it's important to recognize that when we're really resisting learning new things, I think part of it is the grumpy lady syndrome. In other words, things aren't like they used to be. It used to be so much easier in the good old days, and now they're making us do all these things, blah, and on and on and on it goes. It's a negative and unproductive voice. And I think we have to at least be willing to take a step back and realize when we're just resisting change. So that's one thing that I do for myself. I guess the other thing is I'm like we talked earlier. I am definitely one of those people who, when I get really frustrated, I'm stepping away, taking a little break, fix myself an iced tea or something, and then come back and take a look at it. And one of my little tricks, we talk about tiny things. A lot of times when you get a new gadget, it comes with a folder. I'm trying to see if there's one here on my desk. There probably is. I can't find it right now, but it has this teeny tiny, teeny print on it. So one thing that I advise all my seniors to do is whether it's by your recliner when you're watching TV or on your desk when you're working on your computer, a magnifying glass is a good thing to have around. So
Yes.
that's one of my things, one of my tricks. And then the other thing that I think is really important, especially the two things that we really need to be able to handle, I think, are a phone and our tablet. The cell phone.
Yes.
I've often taken care of people, especially when I was doing private duty caregiving, people who would have a cell phone and they would have a problem with the cell phone, or they'd have a problem with the television remote. And so they'd call up the son and daughter, or the daughter rather, comes over, here, mom, I'll fix it for you.
Yeah.
They fix it. And then 3 days later, the same thing happens. You have to call them again. I think part of this problem is that it's really easy to hand something over to somebody else and let them fix it. But when we do that, we're giving up our own ability to do things for ourselves. And I think this is a symbol of what can happen as we age. We get a little lazy and we're so used to having people just fix things for us instead of taking the trouble to learn to do it ourselves. That is what keeps our independence going. Being willing to learn and not just expecting everybody to come in and fix things. Now, it's one thing if you have a stopped up sink and you need to have a plumber come in and with a router or whatever it is they do to fix that. Nobody's expecting you to fix your own plumbing. But when it comes to technology, do not let your children program the phone or program that TV remote without having you do it and showing you how to do it. I think that is just so important.
Yes, I find that sometimes people who are not as old as we are not as patient, and they think that we're just not going to understand it. So they almost push us aside to then do it themselves. So we were at a medical clinic, and I was sitting and observing the staff of the clinic helping the seniors with the technology. So normally we would march up to the reception window and give our name, and that person might ask us a question, and then they'd say, well, go have a seat, we'll call you when we're ready. Well, in this particular instance, you needed to go to a kiosk and you needed to put your name in, you needed to put your phone number in, and they were going to text you when your appointment was ready. And the staff was very kind. I have to say, I was very impressed. They were not only kind personally to the senior, but they were letting them do it themselves, because I think they've learned that if they don't let the senior adult do it themselves, they won't know what to do next time. So it's like Polly's 51st dates. All the time you're doing it for them, and then, oh yeah, here comes Mr. Smith and he can't do it, and so I'm going to have to walk over there, and I have 15 other patients. So I love the fact that the staff was helping the senior. But yes, I find that sometimes, like even at just paying for my groceries, sometimes they're like, I'll do this and yeah, put it over here. And I'm like, okay, I need a minute to just look at it and let my eyes figure it out. I don't think that 20 somethings are the captains of those, you know, terminals. So just give me a break as a senior and let me look at it with my eyes and take a minute and just try to grasp what I'm really being asked to do, and then the ability to work on it myself. I like to take notes. So if it was something really technical that I was going to have to do repeatedly, I will take notes so that in case it's going to be a while until I do that task again, I can go back to those notes. So that really helps me.
Yeah,
Also,
one thing
I
that
can
I saw
visualize
somebody
those
do for
notes.
one of my clients, which I thought was very wise, it was about the TV remote. They took a picture of the TV remote and printed it, and then they drew a diagram around it with arrows because it
Yes.
was large enough. Those TV remotes, for instance, sometimes the writing is so tiny
Or
you
it
can't.
gets worn off. Yeah. Or it gets worn.
So what the grandchild had done for this particular client of mine, they took a picture and blew it up of the cell phone of the TV remote, and then said, "This button is to rewind. This button is to open and close the door for the DVD," and so on and so forth. And that made sense.
And then we have our independence and we feel like we're doing it ourselves. And then
Yes.
that gives us that confidence. And then we celebrate that confidence because we have done it ourselves.
I
So,
think too, a lot of times, the resentment that older, when we get grumpy about technology, I think part of the problem also is that we've gotten a little lazy. And this is what I mean. When you mentioned that you have a grandchild who's getting ready to go to school,
yes,
that is a huge change.
it's a big
That's
step.
lots of stuff to learn. It's a whole unknown world.
Hmm.
By the time we're in our 80s, what is the last brand new adventure, brand new thing that we have learned? It's probably been years. It might even be decades because we've been living the same life with the same routines over and over again. That doesn't mean we can't start learning or we can't keep growing. And that is why it was important earlier for us to talk about the fact that the brain is able to learn.
Hmm.
We are able to learn. We just need to have the patience. I think that we tend to get impatient because if it doesn't come to us in the very first try, well, just forget it. I'm just not going to do it.
Well, that's kind of my
And that's being
reaction.
like a 2-year-old throwing a tantrum.
Yeah, I kind of do that sometimes. Nobody really sees it, but I do that. I get kind of mad at myself and then I just have to walk away. Do you, for me, okay, the, I have to, I kind of dread starting something that's got a lot of tasks to it. So I have to, I know this about myself. I don't do it when I'm rushed. Okay. I try not to do new tasks or learn new things when I'm really pushed for time. I am not a person that works well under deadlines. I work better if I've got time to think about it, think it through, and then work on it. I don't need a lot of time, but I just need that. I give myself that margin. I learned that in college that nothing, it didn't really sound that great, or I didn't do my best work when it was just at the last minute. So I figured out that usually if I am, I've got the time allotted, that I've started ahead of time, if I run into a problem, then I'm able to shut the equipment down or shut my brain down, walk away, do the dishes, throw a load of laundry in. Oh my gosh, this is what I forgot to do. And then come back and sit down and then complete the task. But it was interesting to note that the best times to learn new things is usually between 10 and 2 in the morning, 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon, or later in the day between 4 and 10 is also a good time to learn those things. So this is because this brain that works in these amazing ways is that is when the brain is typically in acquisition mode. It's able to take in new information and it's receptive, more receptive. So if you're wondering why you're
That
not
makes
being
sense. That makes sense
successful,
because I find for myself, um, nowadays, if I have an appointment to go to physical therapy and to go out to do something, if I can possibly have that activity take place in the afternoon, I will do it because to me, my mornings are my prime brain time. And I'm
okay.
running a business and it takes a lot of creativity, a lot of focus. I'm always writing things or writing blogs or creating, presentations and things like that. So, the mornings for me, and so I just keep those fairly sacred unless it's a networking meeting.
Oh, yes, right. And then you have
Unless
to be
it's a
there at eight
networking
or
meeting.
9 a.m.
But it is my prime time. In fact, I sometimes even, that's one of the problems I sometimes have with exercise. Because I really should do some. I finally got it. So I do like 10 minutes of exercise now in the morning so I can do my prime thinking and have more time for it. And then I do 10 minutes at lunchtime and 10 minutes in the late afternoon because that prime time for thinking and creating is so important to me.
Yes, and it's probably different for every person, but just
Yeah,
knowing that there is a prime time
yeah.
and that you can do it, and as you said before, just acknowledging that you just don't know it all. It's okay. It's okay to
Hmm.
ask for help, and I think sometimes we feel stupid that it's something wrong with us that we have to ask for help. But I think women can ask for help easier than men. So, ladies, if you're listening out there, it's a little easier to ask for help. I also just want to share as we think about technophobia and how we can start working our way through it so that we can retain those social connections, but also retain our independence and be able to do just ordinary tasks that have now moved to technology. That I bought an Apple phone and they had classes that I could take for my phone. I also know that AARP offers all kinds of online classes that you can take that can help you with technology. And like Polly said, you don't have to learn it all, just learn what you need to know. What are the top three things you need to know? You don't need to do a customer relationship management
Yeah,
program like Polly does or like I
yeah,
have to.
yeah.
The community colleges are a great place to learn basic computer skills, phone skills. The libraries now offer classes that are taught so that you can connect because they offer so many great programs. They want you to be able to connect. And of course, Polly teaches for OASIS, which is an older adult senior learning institute. So, and then senior centers, which are located all over the
Yeah.
country, also offer. So, if you think, oh, well, I don't know anybody who would do this for me, well, I just gave you so many options
Oh,
that
there's
you can
so
learn.
many places. I know one of the things I liked about what Oasis does is I think they have a designated time where you can just come in with whatever your question is, and they have like somebody sitting there who'll talk to you and walk you through. And I remember when I had Apple products, I don't now, but when I had Apple products that you could make an appointment, bring it into the Apple store. So there is help. We just have to be willing to ask for it and that's okay and be patient.
Yeah.
Patience.
I think give yourself a break and understand it, how freeing is it to understand that you can learn. But if you don't try, you don't know that. But once you try it and you do it, then that gives you that other opportunity to say, well, I learned this. I think I can learn that. You heard,
Actually, that's what builds self-confidence and self-esteem. When we get older and we start following the track of little old lady thoughts about resenting that things aren't the same and being impatient if we can't do something the very first time we try it and all of that kind of thing. That's what that's what makes us old.
who wants to be old, Polly?
Hmm?
I said, who wants to be old?
Well, I'm just talking about
No, I
the
know. That's what
mentality
I'm
of
saying. But at
feeling
that,
old and feeling small and feeling like a victim instead of living your life to the fullest.
yes, a person that somebody wants to be around
Yeah.
because you're still engaged in life and you're still a part of the
Hmm.
landscape. So, yeah, we don't want to get old. Aren't you glad Polly and I are here today to help
I
you
certainly
not get?
don't want to be grumpy and old.
No, I can't. That doesn't work for me either. Nobody wants to be around somebody that's grumpy.
No.
I also mentioned that Googling things and watching YouTube. But Polly, last week you were telling, oh, it was your sewing machine. Your sewing machine looked like a bird's nest. Your thread looked like a bird's nest. Do you remember?
Oh, it jammed. I have a very expensive but old sewing machine. It's made in Switzerland and it's a solid state machine. And I was really upset because I'm very short, so I'm always hemming things and I often hem things for other people too. And I just finished this project and all of a sudden the machine totally jammed. Do you know I went on YouTube. I could not believe how many you can fix your own sewing machine nowadays, even if it's a fancy one. It's amazing.
Yes, so she was able to get her sewing machine all figured out by watching a video that somebody put out because they had the same problem. And they thought, well, I'm going to put this out for this person. It is incredible what you can actually learn on YouTube. And a friend of mine, when her husband died, she said, I'm going to confess, I am just not good at technology. But she said, the Geek Squad is, Linda. And so I'm not advocating that you use the Geek Squad, but what I'm just telling you is that there is this an amazing resource out there for you, and maybe you have another resource that you would like to use, but they are very good at helping people with their technology when they need everything reset or they're looking at getting some new technology. And I love the what you said, Polly. Don't let somebody do it for you. Let them do it with you.
I'm gonna have to.
So, Polly, what are a couple more takeaways for our listeners today?
Well, just from my, and I can only speak from my own personal experience, but I think the number one thing is at the very bottom of this, just be willing to recognize that part of our resistance, if we're having trouble learning or even wanting to learn technology, is the fact that we haven't been learning things for a long time, probably since we got out of, I don't know, maybe since we had a baby. I
Well,
mean, there's
probably
lots of
most of
new
us
things to
were.
learn
So,
then. And,
yeah.
or maybe when we first retired, we had to learn a lot of new things. But it's been a while since we've really had to discipline ourselves to have the patience and to be willing to stumble around, make mistakes, but
Yes.
have patience with ourselves and know that one little tiny step at a time, we can master anything. We just have to have that patience, have people show us how to do it, but then let us do it for ourselves. And one tiny step at a time, we can learn new things. And of course, from a tiny habits point of view, the most important thing of all is every time you do something new and different, make sure you acknowledge yourself and say, yes, I did it. I'm so proud of myself. Woohoo
And,
for me.
and it's true, you do feel proud of yourself that you figured it out. Like we
Yeah.
were pretty proud of ourselves that we finally got those things, those documents reviewed, and then we did the DocuSign. So it is possible, and sometimes it takes more than one brain. I had a friend, well, I still have a friend, but she said, I'm just not good at technology and I live by myself. So she said, what I cannot do, the Geek Squad could do. So I just want you to know there are resources that are available
Yeah,
to
that's
you.
the Geek Squad from Best Buy, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
But there
and
may
you can
be,
like you can actually don't can't you become a member or something
yes.
where they'll just come out and do things for you.
It's amazing. I mean, I just am thankful that they're there. Let's just
Hmm.
put it that way, because we don't know when we're going to get in a situation where we really do need help, and
Hmm.
sometimes our loved ones just aren't close or they just don't have the time. But you know what? We
Right.
want to be independent, and we want to take care of things. And so this gives us a resource that can help us. And maybe it's not the Geek Squad. Maybe there's somebody else that helped you with your computer,
Yeah.
and they said, "Hey, we're here for you." If
Actually, I have friends that I go over and I fix their things for them.
But I do agree
But
with
your point is it's so important. I think technology is a big part of staying independent. It
yes.
really is.
Yes. If we and this goes, I think, with anything. And this is the struggle for me as I live is to not make my world so small. To stay curious and to stay involved. And so, unfortunately, we have to embrace technology, and technophobia is a real thing
Just
and
and
something
welcome
that's
all
really.
new things. Welcome new things.
Yes, Polly is now doing some work in senior retirement communities, helping residents understand that there's more to life, even living in a senior retirement community,
Right.
and to kick those old lady thoughts to the curb and to
Yeah.
embrace where they
Don't be a
are.
grumpy old lady.
Yes, yes. So, listeners, we want to thank you for being with us today. I thank you for letting us share our struggles with you, and we hope that we found a place in your hearts where you know you're not alone and that we can connect with you. So, thank you again for watching and tune in next month because you just never know, seniors, what we're going to talk about.
Oh, yes. We'll
Bye.
definitely be talking. Thank you, Linda.
Bye, Polly.